Welcome, everyone, to this episode of Law of Attraction 2.0, Widening the Lens on the Law of Attraction. If you're enjoying Kris's unparalleled metaphysical content, then please hit the like button, subscribe, press the bell icon so that you get notified when we release cool, new metaphysical content. It's really the only way that the YouTube algorithm will notice Kris's work. So if you want to help out the channel, press the like button, hit subscribe, and let's jump into the content. Welcome, everybody, to this episode of the Law of Attraction 2.0, Widening the Lens on the Law of Attraction. And I'm happy to be here with Serge and Myrna again. And we had a just super exciting episode last time. We really dug into who we are. What is our identity as human beings and as spiritual identity? And also began to connect that to probabilities. So how does this, using the lens of the law of attraction, how does this relate to probabilities, and how does some of that work? So I am super excited to build on that. And I know Myrna has some questions and different things from her bucket list. So I'm going to open it up for some discussion before we bring Kris in.
I love doing this. It's interesting. I have always considered myself to be quite articulate. And when it comes to explaining, which I don't do a lot of actually, but trying to explain how life-changing this information has been for me, I fumble the ball. I'm not critical of myself. It's just the work is so deep and it's been so life-changing that it's often difficult for me to explain what's happened, which is why I'm delighted, Dan, that Serge and eventually Kris are here with us. Your group of videos prior to the ones we're doing is called Life from the Inside Out, which I think is wonderful. I'd never thought about that, actually, because everything is an inside job. Now I know that. So I've had some questions that I want to pose to Kris that build on who are we really. It's certainly a topic that we can spend years thinking about. So at least we can, look at some of the concepts in these videos. I hope that they will be helpful for others as well. Yeah.
I also want to mention that we've gotten a couple of interesting comments on the last one from a few people that really seem to enjoy it. So that's a very nice start.
Great.
And so one of them is, I mentioned to you, Dan, is two people have actually also expressed interest in getting more information at some point down the line on dreams, which I know Kris has talked a lot about in the past. So that could be an interesting additional topic to dive into. We have all these little branches flying all over the place.
I know the vein that we're on too, that's really fascinating to me is, like Myrna said, I believe we touched on a little bit last, I don't think anybody, there's the law of attraction, but is anybody really making those connections between identity and who we are, and how does that fit into the law of attraction? So I find that those connections, and I think the connections we're going to make through the dialogue and the show, really fascinating, because I think it's kind of new territory. So it's really cool.
Yes, exactly. That's been all the difference for me, is the issue of identity. Yeah, very cool. So whenever you're ready, Sir Kris.
Oh, no pressure.
Bring him in now, Serge. Come on.
Come on.
Did you pull the butler thing? Pull the butler thing.
Ring, 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 ring.
Now we trust that you are comfortable.
Yes, thank you.
Indeed, and we thank you for your consideration. And not only yours here presently, but those individuals who will be viewing and sharing of this and previous and future discussions. It is quite phenomenal in many ways to consider the possibility that one or millions or billions of individuals would actually begin to question the nature not only of reality, because as you know, their reality is what is paramount. Their personal experience is the reality. And to begin to question that certainly takes a good amount of gumption. Because most individuals are taught in one form or another that this is reality, this is the rock bed reality, and everything else, especially everything perhaps of an ephemeral nature, is suspect. Only trust the rock bed reality, the physical experience, without questioning the nature of that physical experience, which actually comes from someplace other than physical reality itself. It is as if physical reality is a byproduct of some other kind of process. And that process, interestingly enough, is hardly ever examined or studied or questioned by mainstream. Interestingly enough, many forms of therapeutic approaches are also beginning to recognize and investigate the strong notion that what goes on in your little noggin, the thoughts, feelings, emotions, and imaginings that you entertain actually create that byproduct, which is your experience. And in the last discussion, we did mention that in regards to who are you really, that you are spirit soul, that you are the soul, the self. But we do want to clarify that it does not discount your physical expression. That expression is the rendering as best as possible of everything you think and feel about your own self, your own nature is expressed within the phenomenal world. So in that light, it is also valid to say, in some respects, even though you are not your physical body is your vehicle of expression. It translates everything you feel and think and understand about yourself and your world through this three-dimensional apparatus. So it is becoming of everyone to actually do the very best possible to take care of that particular vehicle so that it can serve you in the best possible ways. And by understanding the nature of the thoughts and the feelings and so on and so forth, you may be able to uncover some of your own difficulties, not just, say, in your family life, your love life, your work life, but even in your own physical health and well-being. Many, many people have accepted certain types of ideas about themselves, perhaps even decades ago, and have forgotten that they have accepted these premises as truth and operate on them on an unconscious basis. And then they may question, why does this always happen to me? Why is this going on? Why is that going on? By an examination of the nature of your inner reality, your thoughts, your feelings, and so on, you may easily come to recognize that you have held certain notions, perhaps even to the point where they have become invisible. Many people, for instance, have accepted the idea that they should never try to displease or hurt someone's feelings. And in doing so, set up a situation where they second guess themselves, create anxiety, sometimes to a high degree, because they do not know if what they say and what they do, how they look at something or someone, may be displeasing somebody else. And in this way, find it difficult to actually be around people and just enjoy themselves, because it may even come to a point where just being themselves is a source of anxiety, or so they think, to other people. And by recognizing such a simple notion that you are not responsible for how other people feel, think, and act, but you are responsible for your own feelings, thoughts, and actions, especially your own happiness, you can allow some of these things to literally slide away, neutralize, not just the thoughts, but to neutralize your own instinctive reactions in this way. And that is the main point of things like EFT or even the tapping we introduced several years ago. It does not only just neutralize the situation, but it also neutralizes your own internal processes. It neutralizes your reactions and can give you an experience of quite a nice degree of freedom to be you without worrying that being you might be a problem for other people. Because in this way, you can never, ever please everyone, but at least please yourself. That can make a significant impact in the quality of your life, and as a result, in the quality of other people and their lives. Does this make sense to you?
Yes. And so the entry point here. Be myself. I, for the longest time until midlife, had no idea what the hell you're talking about, because be myself was do this, do that, do this, do that, do that, do that, do it, get up, get ready, go out, get a job, go to school, get a job, raise a family, maybe, whatever. Not understanding and even not having time to focus on feeling tones or thoughts, just reactive. My life was very reactive. And like many, and I've been in many, many, many groups over the years, there comes a point for many of us where I was going to say life happens, create a situation, whether it's health, financial, relationship, where I came to a stop and said, okay, I don't like where this is going. I don't like how this is going. I need help. And I couldn't figure it out myself. So I've been involved in many different modalities. And as I mentioned last time, many years ago, introduced to the law of attraction, love that idea. At the same time, I'm a North American. I'm a citizen of North America, a logical, rational, scientific being. The emotional, magical side that I also exist in, but didn't know, was not anything I spent a lot of time in. I did do some daydreaming. Most of the time out, I'm trying to figure life out. And then I take a look at this body of knowledge called law of attraction, and life starts to change for me in little ways. What has been significant, I don't even have the right words for this, life-changing, is to finally understand that my concept of the universe, I had no idea. I just always thought that, and I've never been I come from a family that had religion in it. I was never very religious. I didn't know why, and I wasn't. And somehow stuff was happening outside of me, and I'm reacting to all of this stuff. Well, I now know that all of the stuff I put there, not consciously often, subconsciously, my wider, deeper self and me have orchestrated my external life as a way of teaching me. This is what's been so amazing about teaching me the power that I am, the power to work with energy. That's what this road has been all about, because I've created every single thing in my external reality. That has not been a very fast journey for me. And yet here I am. And this is part of what I wanted to do with you and Dan, do these series of videos, because the work has been, I keep saying this, it's been so significant. And it starts with, who am I really? And Kris, one of the things, and you've started to talk about this, what is the benefit of me, others, understanding there's no outside, there's no external force creating my life? What's the benefit of really understanding that?
A tall order, but we will try to be the best barkeep ever. Now, you mentioned a few moments ago, you were trying to figure life out. Correct?
Correct.
There are two different views on that, of course. One is trying to figure out the normally understood life, the 9 to 5, the raising the children, paying the bills, working yourselves to death, as if that is some kind of life. And in a way, it is some kind of life, but it may not necessarily be the kind of life that may reflect your own internal values, your internal potential creativity, and so on. Then there is the other kind of life, the life that says, wait a moment. What if the way I think about things, the way I process things, the way I view things, the way I perceive things, has a much greater impact in my life than I have ever suspected? What if I can change the nature of my approach about my thinking. That may indeed cause a chain reaction that flips that life head over heels, wherein I am no longer subject to any kind of external forces in one form or another, but that instead I influence my life more than I ever thought possible. And actually, that is one of the major keys. We have asked in the past, who influences you more than anyone? Someone may say, oh, my mother, my father, my grandmother, my uncle, my school teacher, my boss. These are certainly strong influences. But there is one major influencer in your life, and no, it is no one on YouTube or TikTok. There is one major, the predominant influencer in your life, and it is you. Listen to what you tell yourself. You may have thousands of thoughts during the course of the waking day. And 99% of all of that time, it is you who are talking to yourself. Even though many people may come in and out of that moment, you still are the determining force. You are the one that influences yourself more than anyone. Your decisions, the way you think, the way you interact, the way you react or not. So by understanding this one little thing, you can begin to make a significant difference. Number two, most people, and this is a significant number, do not look at their thoughts, but instead absorb and become their thoughts at any given moment.
Yes.
Literally creating an disempowering situation without even realizing what is happening. Very, very few people actually take the time to recognize that they are the thinker, that they can look at their thoughts and choose which ones to accept and which ones to quote unquote make real. And that is a significant degree of understanding. No one hardly ever recognizes that they are the thinker and therefore have a choice.
I think the pressure is to always react.
Indeed.
It's not.
That is the standard default.
Correct. It's not to take a moment, halt, consider where's my energy, where's my feeling tone, what's my thought. It's always about react to external stimuli.
That
Yes.
can even create literal leak of energy. And because, of course, as you react to every little situation, you just drain yourself. The other side of that coin, recognizing that you are the thinker and that you have a choice, you can look at your thoughts and make that decision. Will I go off the rails or not? I choose to not go off the rails. I will look at the situation calmly, neutrally, And then I will select another kind of thought process that actually empowers me as opposed to disempowering me, and makes a very big difference, not only in that moment, but in one's life experience. And this is something that has more or less been lost. Look at all the ancient philosophers. Look at all the ancient Greek philosophers, for instance. Look at all the ancient Indian sages. The majority of them, even the Buddha, did create or emphasize the notion that you can be the master of your destiny by recognizing this very point, that you are the thinker, that you are the one who can select what you will believe and act upon, as opposed to what you will react to. There are also many other great philosophers throughout the ages, but their perceptions often have been influenced by reading literature from the ancient Greeks and Indian sages and Far Eastern sages and teachers as well. Whether it is Zen or any other kind of philosophy, if you look at it more closely, the main gist of their teachings is to understand that you do not need to be like a dinghy boat in the middle of a storm. You can calm the storm simply by recognizing that you are the ocean, not the boat, not the drop, but the whole ocean. You are the thinker that can make a very big impact. So if you want to know a little bit more of who are you really, this is a good point to consider as a point of entry. You are the thinker.
Oh,
Not
it's
because
huge.
you think thoughts, but because you are the master of your thoughts.
Yes.
Thought mastery is very much a lost art, and it is also a science.
I had to give myself permission, of course, because no one else could do this. I had to give myself permission to create some silence in my life in order to catch my thoughts, my expectations. We'll talk more about that in another session. My expectations, and ultimately my feeling tone, because we know it's actually the feeling tone that creates external reality. I had to give myself permission not to rush around from morning till night. And in doing so, I feel I live in a very different space now than I ever did. It's been my limited experience as only one person. I don't see a lot of people giving themselves permission to do that.
They are told that they cannot do that they must follow the rules of society. They must consume goods. They must work to make money, to buy goods, which they will then consume. And if you slow down that cycle, the whole economy will collapse. What would happen if thousands upon thousands of people suddenly realized that they can have a different kind of life? So it is strongly discouraged in many, many circles, unless you follow a certain set of rules.
Mm-hmm.
And yet, this state of peace of mind that you describe is actually entirely natural to the living entity. That is one of the reasons where you go to sleep. Because then you enter into your own inner realms and you are far more in control of what goes on there. Even if you think you do not have any control in your dream state, you have far more control. And you will even create scenarios to face up to your shortcomings in a matter of speaking so that you can address them, so that you can recognize that you are the thinker. You do not have to react. You can simply be.
It's the word that comes up, so I'll use it. It's a very powerful stance to know I'm the thinker, that I'm in charge of my thoughts.
Indeed.
And then for my feeling tone, that sense of power, and it's not power over others, it's a sense of self, is extraordinary.
Indeed.
And one of the things
the man who believes he is surrounded by enemies is at the mercy of all of his enemies. The man who recognizes that his true enemies are his own thoughts becomes his own master and fears no one nor anything.
So I have a request after we asked Dan to let us know what you're thinking, Dan. I have a request, Serge. Sorry, Kris. One of the most enchanting times I've had with you is when you've done some visualizations that have allowed me to experience myself as a much larger power than I knew I was. So I just wondered if there was an opportunity for you to take us on a visualization where we can experience this thinker, the wider self. I would love that if that's possible.
The possibilities exist. However, we are aware that individuals may be watching these videos while they are driving. It is not unheard of,
well,
or occupied in some other way.
They could always pull over, yes, or turn it off and turn it back on when they can listen. Dan?
Perhaps at another time.
All right. Okay. How about you, Dan? What's going on through your thought machine?
Well, I'm really pondering this whole, I've never thought of it as the thinker, behind the thoughts. And, I'm just wondering if there's some more connections between that idea of the dreams connecting with our deeper identity and then the idea of the law of attraction. Like, say we're not really attracting what we want into our life, we're in this reactive mode, how can we use that connection between the dreams and our deeper identity to connect with that idea of the law of attraction?
So when you have a circus, you have all the performers, all the audience, all the animals, all the clowns. But there is one person at the circus who is very different. Who would that be?
The circus master.
Yeah, I don't know what they're called, but yeah, there we go.
The circus master does not get involved in the games. He calls the games. He calls the performances. He calls the clowns. He calls the elephants. He calls the elephant tamer. He even calls the reaction from the audience. But he does not perform as such. Does that make some sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So you could say that your identity is the circus master. The circus keeps going on until the circus master calls everyone and stops the circus and then directs all of the actions, or if you like, the maestro at an orchestra. So that is your role as the individual. And even though it appears that this role may have been hijacked, you do have the possibility to reinitiate that role, to recognize it, and to function appropriately, or as they say in legalese, to govern yourselves appropriately. So it is a sort of governance of self, to look at the horses that are pulling the chariot. So the charioteer has control of those horses. Otherwise, the horses have control of the chariots. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And Myrna was touching on this earlier, but I think one of the key differences when I've read or watched some of the law of attraction type of stuff, it's that like the circus master or source or whatever is like out here and you like align yourself with it. So, but what I'm hearing is that this circus master, this identity is an internal thing. We don't
Indeed.
we don't really have to align it, just there. We have to maybe understand
You
it.
simply have to recognize it. That is what is meant by alignment. The old-fashioned interpretation of a vortex or a source self that exists in some other state or dimension simply keeps you from recognizing that you are that source self. You are the creator of your reality. You form that reality utilizing the same instruments, mechanisms, technologies, and tools every single other individual has. Your thoughts, your feelings, your emotions, and so on. But if you think that somehow or other something outside of you has the power to do that for you, then again, you have misplaced your sense of authority. You must depend on some external source or device in order to do that. We are saying that you are the source of the power in your own life. Otherwise, all of this stuff with the law of attraction and self-empowerment becomes null and void. What is the point of trying to regain the power of your life by shifting it from an external supernatural being that lives in the clouds, a sky god, to an external cloud-like source? What is the difference? So what we are saying is that at the very core of your being is the one who is many and the many who is the one, and that is what you are. You are of many minds, and yet you are of one mind. Now, do you want to take a little break?
Well, I think we're gonna make this one episode, Kris. So if we want to do a little bit more, or if whatever
We can easily continue. You should know that by now.
Let's do that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Indeed, then. So the main point to recognize is there cannot be any other kind of source outside of your life or you that has the power to do things for you or to you. your own perceptions are the ones, your perceptions create your situation. So if you think or perceive or imagine or feel that something outside of you will bless you, then those blessings may fall short, because you are the one who is responsible for giving yourself all the blessings that you want, all the blessings that you need. But to get to that point, you need to recognize again that you are that thinker. You are the thinker, and the thinker is the doer. Does that make some sense to you?
Yes, and not just from a logical place, but also from that magical emotional place. I have a request, and that is, I have enough. I've had enough right now. This is a lot to even take in the idea that, and not that I haven't heard this, but that it's just, it's profound. And so
Indeed.
I would like to request that we have another session. We're going to have several other sessions about dream time and all sorts of other stuff. Right now, I'm done. I'm full.
We just want to take a moment to return to Dan's inquiry concerning dreams. So the realm of dreams, the episodes of or adventures in dreams, can also teach you some very profound things about the nature of the reality within which you have your existence. And now we are not talking about your physical reality, but your metaphysical reality, wherein so many possibilities exist that give you a hint of the multidimensional nature of the thinker-doer that you are.
Yes.
So with that, then, we will return Joseph to your thinker selves. And we thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kris. And we're going to keep going a little bit. We've got Kris back with us because we just had a lovely conversation and want to add one more thing to the episode. So,
and you thought you were done. We were not.
I guess
No.
not. We needed a little bit more.
The idea that you spoke about, we have shared many times with many individuals. And it is that when a situation is troubling you, you can take a few moments to breathe deeply and project your situation, but in the sense that this is a play being acted out on a stage, and you are out in the seats or in the balcony looking at the situation being played out, wherein you create a certain distance between your own self and the events or the condition or circumstances. And in this way, may be able to grasp a whole host of other actions and thoughts and perhaps judgments and so on and so forth that are being enacted, but you do not necessarily jump into the play, but simply keep watching. Allow it to unfold, especially allow it to unfold unhindered. Allow it to just go the way it needs to without your specific judgments, censorship, or involvement. One of the marvelous effects of such a situation is that it will eventually just resolve itself. The energy will transform itself because it may be held into a locked pattern simply because of your incomprehension, your self-doubts, your fears, and so on and so forth. But in this particular way, you can observe it unfold. You can even be so bold as to pretend that you have a remote control and pause the scene, rewind it a little bit, fast forward it a little bit, and just make any kind of edits you feel might enhance, without judging, just might enhance the unfolding of it. And interestingly enough, this is not something new to you. You've been doing the same thing in dream states since forever. Even without a physical body, when you enter into dream states, into dream time, and even more so, of course, when you are physically embodied, you have your life, you go to sleep, you dream, you alter and change situations in an concerted effort to understand your situation, your energy, your involvement, and how to resolve that which may be troubling you in one form or another. You do that naturally. It is instinctive. It is simply about bringing this back into a more conscious level in a meditative mood and exercising a little more conscious determination or intention in the process, thereby also neutralizing your particular reactions and releasing the energy to solve its own challenges. And it will do so. Your energy will work itself out. This is a situation where you need to trust that your own good-natured intent is alive and well and flourishing within you. And it is useful especially to cultivate that kind of good intention. If you do not trust yourself, it matters little. You will trust no one and nothing, not even you. But when you begin to trust yourself, some instantly miraculous things happen. One of them is the burdens of the world do not become so weighty. Because the burdens of the world are things that you have heaved upon your own shoulders. The world has not heaved them on your shoulders, you have. So by resolving your own dilemmas, you gain much in terms of peace of mind. When there is peace of mind, there is health. And when there is health, there is an enrichment in the values of your livelihood, not just by going to work, but how you live that life. So that is our finale for tonight. You can pull down the curtain now.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kris. Thanks for watching, and if you would like to leave a question for Kris, drop it in the comments below. Myself, Serge, or someone from the Kris team will be checking and may use them to drive the discussion, put them in future episodes. So if you'd like to interact with the Kris community, feel free. Put your questions below, and we'd love to hear from you, and see you again next time.